My topic is why do I have to pay IDC? Which first we need to talk about what exactly is IDC and what are the rates. So IDC is the acronym for indirect costs. You might also hear it referred to as facilities and administrative costs, or F&A, and those are synonymous. You can use whichever word you want to. Normally, in my office we use IDC. And so what are IDC? IDC are costs that are important for the project and are necessary for the project, but you can't say exactly how much is being used for the project. They're not directly attributable. And so the best example I can give is electricity. You have to have electricity to do your project. You have to have electricity in your lab in order to conduct your experiments. Your computer has to have electricity in order to function. And so that is necessary for the project, but how are you supposed to say exactly how much electricity you are using for the project? And trying to do that would be overly administrative burdensome, and it would just take too much of your time and it wouldn't ever be accurate. And so what the federal government did is they decided that they would do federally negotiated rates with most universities, and they would try to calculate what that rate is based on your specific university. And so there are different agencies that negotiate the rates. For us, it's the Department of Health and Human Services, the DHHS, and we just completed our most recent negotiation. And so these rates go into effect as of September 1st of 2021. And the rates are in the table below. So everything that's research and on campus is 56%. Instruction that's on campus is 51.3%. And anything that is not instruction or research will be at 26%, as well as anything that's off campus. So I'm going to go a little bit into detail about what is the difference between on and off campus and research and instruction. So what is on campus? On campus is anything that is at the UTD facilities. So that would be everything at the Richardson location. That would also include CBH and CVL in Dallas and the Collier Center in Dallas. All of that is on campus. It doesn't matter if it's not housed directly at Richardson. It could be any of those. And off campus would be anything else. One of the examples I can give for that is the geosciences group. They do a lot of off-campus research because they are studying erosion and soil and sediment and things like that. And so they sometimes go out to West Texas or Nevada, and they are out there for an extended period of time doing the majority of their research. And so the key there is majority. Where is the majority of the project taking place? If the majority is on campus, you use the on-campus rate. If the majority is off campus, you use the off-campus rate. So now we'll talk about the research, instruction, and other. So research is research. You should have a hypothesis. You should be doing a project where you are trying to solve something. There is an analysis, there's computation, there's publications. All of that is part of the research project. Instruction is you're teaching somebody, and that is simply that. Instruction. Other sponsored activities would be anything that doesn't fit those two categories. So like public service, if you're doing something for the public good, but you're not necessarily researching it, you're just doing it for the public good, then that would be the other sponsored activity. And I will say that probably 92% of the projects that we do here at UTD are at the 56% research for on campus. That is the majority of what we do. All right, so the next slide will give us some examples of what exactly is IDC. And if you remember, facilities administrative is one of the phrases that is used, and majority of this fits that category. So everybody on this call today is an IDC. We are an IDC cost, everybody in the Office of Research. It's everybody, all that is in support of research. You need us in order to do your project, but you can't say exactly how much of our time is being used. It's also the security, and that's InfoSec, that's OIT, that's your computer network. Sometimes some of the projects require your own environment on the computer, and so that's an additional resource that goes into the F&A cost. We have the janitorial staff, the landscaping, the libraries, accounting and payroll. You need to receive your paycheck. You need finance in order to send invoices and to bill the sponsor. Then we have the utilities, which was the electricity, but also the air, the water, the biosafety stuff, the vivarium, the IRB, the IACOOK, all of that in our core facilities. It's all part of IDC. That is all that's encompassed. So it's anything that you need, but you can't necessarily say how much of it you're using. All right, so we can go to the next slide, which will talk about what happens to the IDC that's collected. So here at UTD, we give 10% back to the PI of the project. And this is different from a lot of universities. Most universities do not give any back to the PI, so this is a benefit to being at UTD. The way that we return it is it generally goes back to the PI. Now that can be split between PIs and co-PIs if that's what's desired, but our general course is to give it to the PI. There are a couple of things to remember about this. We term it research enhancement. So these are research enhancement funds that will come back into a specific account set up for this purpose. And the cost will be distributed after the first of the fiscal year. So our fiscal year starts in September. So these funds will be deposited into September or October timeframe, and they will also be on a full year fiscal delay. So the reason for that is because this is return on IDC, and so the expense has to hit the project. We want to make sure that that expense is going to stay on the project, that it's not going to be reallocated somewhere, or that an auditor or the sponsor isn't going to come back and say, no, you can't charge that. So we want to make sure that those expenses are on the project and are staying on the project, and then we can return the IDC that resulted from them. And so it will be on a full fiscal year delay, but then those funds will arrive. And then they can be used for anything related to your research. They're basically unrestricted research funds at that point. So what happens to the other 90%? And that's kind of up to leadership. It goes back into the facilities and administrative costs. All those things that were listed on the previous slide, the funds will go back towards those things. We also use them to fund our cost share commitments. The main ones for that are like the Department of Energy. Almost all their projects require a 30% cost share. And then we have the NSF MRI, which requires a 30% cost share. So it's things like that. But it mainly goes back into all of those items that we listed on the previous slide as to how we can further our research enterprise, because these resulted from research funds. So they go back into the research infrastructure, if you will, and all that goes with it. And so that pretty much sums it up. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Tiffany.